Moving food from farm to table seems simple enough. And 200 years ago, it was. But today, the American farmer helps feed a global population of nearly 7 billion people. The challenge lies in efficiently connecting the American farmer to consumers with changing needs and desires for agricultural products for use in food and fuel.
Everybody wants more grain. They want it for more meat. They want it for fuel. Congress has asked our farmers to supply at least 10% of the motor fuel in this country, and they're doing that. This country has only 5% of the world's population, but it has 20% of the world's agricultural production capacity. We got much more food than we can possibly eat.
Amidst all of the change in food and agriculture, the one thing that remains unchanged is our dependence on the American farmer.
We start wheat harvest late June, and then that'll be followed by early planted corn, dryland corn, around September 1, as well as early planted sunflowers. And then we'll move from that into soybeans and then the irrigated beans.
Instead of selling all of their crops at harvest time as they did for centuries, farmers now spread grain sales throughout the year. As a result, they find themselves facing difficult questions. Will prices be higher next spring than now? And if so, high enough to justify storing 70% of the crop until then, or only 50%? What if prices are lower? To help answer these questions and more, farmers work with their local grain elevators to formulate a marketing plan.
The Scoular company, like all grain companies in the industry, we don't produce anything. What we're doing is we're providing a service to efficiently and safely move the product from the farm gate all the way to the end consumer. So we're providing storage, transportation, and handling, as well as risk management for the farm community. Grain plays a critical role in everything we eat. Grain supplies the feed for all our livestock. So when you eat a steak, that steak came from grain. When you eat eggs or drink milk, grain fed those animals that produce those products. The grain distribution system is very complex, yet it's very simple. Wheat is planted in the fall by the farmer in the state of Kansas. It's harvested in July. The farmer will harvest the grain with his combine, put it in his truck, bring it to the elevator and unload it into a very efficient loading system. And then it is graded and segregated by quality into various silos in a grain elevator. Then the grain company will maintain the quality of that grain, store it throughout the year, and then load it out in either rail cars or trucks or barges and ship it around North America and the world.
Our grain is marketed in several different fashions. A lot of it is driven by the marketplace. If we go to the terminal elevators, which are on the larger railroad, they offer some additional market price. But on the other hand, it costs us money to get to that point of delivery also. And so the local elevator has considerable play in this.
Grain elevators are really the link between the farmer and the end user. And the end users obviously are the feed mills and the feed yards and the flour mills and the ethanol plants, but we play the major role for them getting their grain from the field to the end user. A typical transaction for a grain elevator would be a farmer, for instance, would call us, decide to sell his grain and bring it to town. When he gets to town, he'll pull under our truck probe. It's a mechanical device that gets a sample from the farmer's truck and brings it into the scale house. The truck is weighed and the grain is graded by certain equipment and certain testing procedures. It then proceeds to the dump pit and elevated to the top of the elevator.
Scoular forges partnerships with customers in various segments of the food supply chain. By partnering, the strengths of both companies are leveraged to add further efficiency to the system that brings food from the field to our forks.
Going to the grocery store and buying a loaf of bread or buying pasta, that wheat started out somewhere in Kansas, Nebraska, North Dakota, maybe even Canada, and was transported to a mill and was converted from the wheat into flour And then that flour or semolina was sent to a manufacturing facility where it was converted into pasta or bread products. So what is unique about the business is the amount of transportation that is involved in getting wheat from the producer in the United States to the grocery shelf.
From its humble beginning as a small grain and lumber company in Superior, Nebraska, to one of the largest grain storage and handling companies in the United States, Scoular is poised to continue to respond to the needs of the continuously evolving marketplace. For more information, please visit Scoular.com/American Farmer.